President of these United States gave a major public policy address to the nation on what we're going to do in his second term to eradicate poverty. And then, if he gave us an assignment and told us what to do to help him get that done, to go out and help make him do it. So he ought to give a major public policy address, and he ought to then convene a White House conference to eradicate poverty in America. Bring the experts together. I'm not going to be in that meeting because I'm not an expert. I'm just a broadcaster trying to, like a blocker, open up a hole for the experts to run through. The president ought to convene the experts and craft a national plan to cut poverty in half in the short run, to eradicate it in the long run in the richest nation in the world. If the president wants a legacy of which he and we can be proud, he's going to have to make poverty a priority in his second term. Sign that letter and let him know about it. Dr. West.
That's right. And I'll say too, though, brother, I don't want to be in that meeting either.
I don't think you're going to be invited.
I wouldn't, but I wouldn't go. Yeah. I wouldn't go. Yeah. Because as a Jesus-loving free black man, I'd be in a crack house for the White House. And the reason why I would is because at least the crack addicts are honest about their addiction. The White House is addicted to power. They're addicted to power. That's why you got to bring power to bear. But my calling is not just about power. My calling has to do with love and justice. And love and justice is always weak. That's precisely why the black prophetic tradition in the history of this nation has been the leaven in the American democratic loaf. Because we recognize that first you have to have a suspicion of government. This is why I resonate with my conservative brother. And the reason why is Martin Luther King Jr. was under the FBI surveillance from January 1956 till the day he died. Governments can be repressive, vicious, ugly, violate your rights, violate your liberties, crush your people, generate the propaganda. We need that sensibility too. Governments can also be affirmative if they're helping poor and working people. Governments can use their power to support corporate elites. That's the beginning of crypto-fascism, when they come together with no accountability whatsoever, not just politically, but economically. That's in part where things are moving. Let me say this. Martin Luther King Jr. today could be taken to jail without due process or judicial process under the National Defense Authorization Act because he had a connection with a freedom fighter who was called a terrorist named Nelson Mandela. He just got off the terrorist list in 2008 of America. Let's be honest about that. Because he had a relation to a terrorist, and under the present administration, you can assassinate Americans, you can take them to jail without due process. That's a repressive side of the government that the black freedom movement has always been suspicious of. We got black political prisoners right now in America. And they're in there precisely because the repression came down so hard and their love was such that they were willing to tell the truth that was a threat to the status quo. And we don't even talk about them. That's why the culture of fear is not just silence, I don't think, my dear sister. People are afraid. They're afraid to lose their jobs. They're afraid to lose their status. They're afraid of not going to the nice tea parties. They're afraid of not going to the White House. You can't have a culture of fear and generate a movement. That's why it's not just about justice. Any justice that's only justice will soon degenerate into something less than justice. We got to talk about love. Martin was a titan of love. If you're not talking about love and willingness to sacrifice, all this is just sounding brass and tinkling cymbal. We're not going nowhere.
But how are you going to talk about
We're
love?
not going nowhere.
But Doc,
you got to hit the streets. You got to go to jail. You got to be willing to die. That's what the movement's about. And if you're not willing to do that, then keep your jobs and drink your tea.